Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Um, if you don't know who I am, my name is Shook. I make videos for NBA. I make videos for NFL. All these videos they get posted on this subreddit. It's called DF Sports right here. You can find my post. My username is Shook. And then in these posts, I make updates with all the news that comes out throughout the day. You can ask me questions about the slate. I'll always reply to you and stuff like that. So that'll be linked down below in the comments. And then if you ever need to get a hold of me privately, you can get a hold of me on Twitter right here. Um, Before we do that, my Discord will also be linked in that Reddit post where I have cores for cash, well, tournaments, um, player pools, in-depth videos, stuff like that. That'll be in the Reddit post as well. So, not going to show you my lineups tonight. I'm not sure how it's going to go. You guys know I don't sweat, and I'm making this while the slate is live right now, so I don't want to click contest and see how I'm doing. But if I had to guess on the main slate, it's going to be really, really close. My lineup tonight was, what was my lineup? Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, Josh Okogie, um, Dario Saric, Andrew Wiggins, and was that it? What? Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Josh Okogie, Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, and Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon is laying an egg, but he shot the ball 15 times. He's 3 of 15. I just can't believe it. Can't believe it. Um, the core that I had for today was Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, and Andrew Wiggins. I think Andrew Wiggins having a really bad game too, so unlucky there. But we'll see. And then my showdown, I think showdown's going really well. I went Chris Paul captain, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Steph Curry, Dario Saric, and Yusuf Nurkic. That was my showdown lineup. I think it's probably nuking. So yeah, we'll see. I'll make an update in the next video with how I did for tonight. It's going to be close on the main slate, and then showdown's probably nuking. But yeah, let's get into this main slate. Got a big 12-game slate for tomorrow, the 25th. Let's get right into it. So I'm not going to bore you guys going over everyone's bench rotations and stuff like that. I'll only say if I like anyone off the bench, if I like them. Not going to bore you guys going too into detail with everything. On a 12-game slate, we'll get into that like more smaller slates like we did yesterday, 2-game slates, maybe like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-game slates when it's necessary. I think we're going to have some value anyway to where we don't really need to go to a ton of bench guys, right? So for Washington's starting lineup, it's going to be Tyus Jones, Jordan Poole, Coulibaly, Kyle Kuzma, Daniel Gafford. I guess they could go to Denny, but I think it'll be Bilal. So looking at the price points, I think Jordan Poole, I like his ceiling in tournaments. I think this game's going to be pretty fast paced. So I do like Poole's ceiling in tournaments. I think 8-1's kind of priced about right, but he still does have a ceiling. I mean, Jordan Poole's probably going to shoot the ball 20 plus times a game, right? So I like Poole's ceiling. I think Kuzma's fine. Kuzma's price point is definitely easier to get to. I definitely prefer Jordan Poole straight up. But I think Kuzma's okay. Denny, if he starts, if he comes off the bench, probably can't do it. I think Daniel Gafford's a pretty safe play at 5.1K. I think he's just reasonable. Too solid at that price point. Pretty safe, good point per minute guy. The only thing with Daniel Gafford is you do have to worry about foul trouble with him. He's always in foul trouble. And then I think Tyus Jones does make for a pretty good value play at 4.9K. Starting point guard, I'm expecting around 30 minutes from him. Good point per minute guy that can stuff the stat sheet. Yeah, I like me some Tyus quite a bit. I think he stands out as a pretty good value play on this slate. And then if they do start Coulibaly, I think he's a reasonable value at 4K. He was pretty solid in the preseason as well. On to the Pacers. So starting lineup here is going to be Halliburton, Mathurin, Bruce Brown, Obi Toppin, and Miles Turner for the starting lineup there. I think Halliburton's reasonable. Like I said, this game should be pretty high scoring. Wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I think he's reasonable. I think Miles Turner at 5.9K is definitely intriguing to me. His rotation last year was definitely frustrating as people who play Miles Turner. It was just like hockey subs all the time. Don't think that'll be the case this year, or hopefully not. So Miles Turner, solid point per minute. I think 5.9 is definitely solid, and I always want to target Daniel Gafford, right? So I think it's a really good spot for Miles Turner. So I do like some Miles Turner. I think, Healed, Matherin, they're just there for me. They're both playable. No standouts there. Bruce Brown at 5.2, once again, just no standouts there. As far as like the bench goes, oh, and Obi Toppin at 3K, I think stands out as one of the best value plays on the slate. Not sure why he's the flat min price. So I really like Obi Toppin. And like I said, everyone else is just like, I think my main interests here are, Halliburton, Miles Turner, I think is a pretty good play. Then I like Obi Toppin a lot at 3K. So Atlanta, their depth chart: Trey, Dejounte Hunter, Sadiq Bey, and Clint Capella. I would not be shocked if they do start Jalen Johnson, though. I think that is on the table. Really good spot, really pace up spot here. So I think Trey Young's a pretty good spend up if you can't afford Trey. I think Dejounte Murray is in play. Clint Capella, Okongwu. Last season they kind of split the center minutes. Capella didn't get huge minutes, so I'm expecting that to happen again. So if they do that, I think it's easier just to get to Okongwu, but then again, at their price points, I think they're both just no standouts there. If they start Bey, sure. Even if Jalen Johnson comes off the bench, I still think he's a solid value. He's a pretty good point per minute guy that I am expecting pretty decent run for. If he starts, then I would really like Jalen Johnson for value. So there are some things to like in this spot for Atlanta. The main interest I have here is Trey Murray and Jalen Johnson personally for me. On to Charlotte. So starting lineup: LaMelo, Rozier, Hayward, PJ, Mark. Once again, I think LaMelo is fine at 9.9. I think price seems about right, but he does have a ceiling. Guy that can stuff the stat sheet, do a little bit of everything. His triple-double upside as well. I think Rozier is solid at 7.3. He was really good in preseason as well. Also has shooting guard eligibility. So I think price point-wise, point per dollar, I do prefer Rozier to LaMelo Ball. So definitely a fan of Rozier. PJ, Hayward, no thanks. Mark Williams, I think is solid at 5.3, kind of like Daniel Gafford. Both solid point per minute. Both will probably play, I don't know, mid-20s minutes, so I think Mark is solid. Nick Richards will get the backup 5, playable, but no standout there. Let's move on to the Rockets. The starting lineup here: Fred, Jalen, Brooks, Jabari, Sengun. Let me exit out of that. Fred, I think, is priced appropriately. I think the guys that stand out to me is going to be Sengun. I don't know. Sengun. 6.7K does seem too cheap for him up against Orlando, so I like Sengun. I think Jabari Smith at 5.6 stands out to me. I think he's a pretty good play. He was really good in preseason too. He was being a lot more aggressive, good rebounder as well. So I think Jabari Smith does look pretty good to me. I think Sengun's good. I like Jalen Green's ceiling, but we'll talk about a shooting guard at the same price point that I think is way better in Tyler Herro. Then off the bench, I don't think there's much. Like Jock Landale, he'll probably get the backup 5. I think I'm mainly looking to like Jabari, Jalen Green, Sengun. Fred's in play, but I don't like the price point there. Orlando, so starting lineup going to be Fultz, Suggs, Franz, Paolo, Wendell Carter Jr. Let me exit out of this, and let me exit out of this. Make it a lot easier. Paolo at 9K does seem overpriced to me. Wendell Carter Jr. In a pace-up spot against Houston, I think is solid. Franz seems priced about right to me. I do like Fultz at 5.7 though. He was really good at some points last year. Super high ceiling with him as well. Now the floor can be low with Markelle Fultz, but I do like his ceiling at 5.7. That does seem too cheap. Cole off the bench seems about pricey. Suggs does have a ceiling, but 4.8 also does seem priced about right for him. Wagner's good point per minute off the bench, but don't think I have too much interest there. All right, for Boston, so starting lineup: Drew, White, Jalen, Tatum, and I read that right. Porzingis, yeah. They could do a number of different things with the starting lineup. I don't think that's set in stone with the depth chart, so we'll take a wait and see. But I think Tatum is okay. I also wished he was a little bit cheaper. Also, it's not a good spot. The New York Knicks play pretty slow as well, so don't love Tatum as a spend up. I'm not too high on Jaylen Brown either. I think my favorite plays from this team are going to be Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. I think Drew at 6-1 is just too cheap, so I like me some Drew. Porzingis, it's a pretty bad spot, but playable. I think, my favorite of that grouping would be Drew. White seems okay at 5-4, and you're probably going to see some like Pritchhauser, but hard to go to those guys, right? Let's move on to the Knicks. So you're going to get a starting lineup of Brunson, Grimes, RJ, Randall, and Mitch. So Randall at 8-4 seems fine. I think also it's a really, really bad spot. I think Brunson would be my favorite of this group at 7-6. RJ Barrett seems priced about right. Manuel quickly off the bench. He'll chuck when he's out there, but 5-4 does seem a bit overpriced to him. Mitchell Robinson, I mean, he's in that grouping of like Daniel Gafford, Mark Williams. I think I prefer like Gafford, Mark Williams over Mitch. Quentin Grimes, he'll be very, very low usage when he's on the court, but he'll play decent minutes. If he needs something for salary relief, it's okay. Hartenstein will get the backup 5. He's good point per minute, but once again, I don't think it's needed on this slate. All right, for the Timberwolves, so McDaniels is going to be out. Starting lineup for I just closed it. Ant, Cat, Gobert, Conley, and then we'll see what they do with the starting lineup. Could be a number of guys. Kyle Anderson could start. They could throw NAW in there. We'll take a wait and see approach there. But bad spot here too. Not much stands out to me with the Timberwolves. I think Ant's just okay. I think Cat's just okay. Gobert seems priced about right. Mike Conley seems a little bit overpriced. Kyle Anderson seems a little bit overpriced. Now, if they do start a guy like NAW at the Flatman price, then I think he'd stand out as a really good value. Even if he comes off the bench, I still think he's playable. They were giving him a ton of run in preseason. He started a lot as well in the preseason, so I would think that'd be the guy they want to go to. So keep an eye on the Timberwolves starting lineup, but I think it'll be NAW. I think, assuming he does start, would be a pretty good value play to me. Raptors, Schroeder, OG, Scotty, Siakam, and Jakob Poeltl. So Siakam is overpriced. I don't understand the price point there. Scotty Barnes, I really like at 6.7K. If you guys watched him also in preseason, he has turned an absolute corner here. Good defender, good rebounder, can stuff the stat sheet, get defensive stats. Expecting solid minutes as well. I think he's a really good play at 6-7. I also like Jakob Poeltl quite a bit at 5.9K too. I'm expecting low 30s minutes for him. He's another pretty good point per minute guy. I think 5.9 is just way too cheap for Jakob Poeltl, so I'm a huge fan of Poeltl. Like Scotty Barnes, I think OG's just there for me. I think Schroeder is just super safe at 5.3. I think he's solid. Gary Trent off the bench, I can't pay that price point for. And then it's hard for me to go to anyone else here. All right, so Cavs, we got to keep an eye on some news here, but starting lineup, we'll monitor with Garland, Mitchell, Strus, Mobley. They're obviously going to start. We'll monitor Garland. And then I don't know who they start at the 5. They could do a number of things. They could go Mobley at the 5 and start like an Okoro. They could start Damian Jones at the 5. We'll wait and see there. But if Garland's out, LeVert obviously will start for him. Now, if Garland's in, I think Mitchell is more of a secondary play for me. Garland himself, I would like at 7K. And then I really, really like Mobley here at 6.3K with no Jared Allen. His rebounding opportunity is going to go up. He's a good defender. I think that price tag is just way, way too cheap. I love Mobley tomorrow. LeVert, just a contrarian play if Garland does play. Strus is fine also. I forgot to close that. And then we'll see what they do with the starting line if whoever starts for Allen. Now, if Garland's out, then I think Donovan Mitchell shoots up to one of the better spend ups on the slate. I would still really like Evan Mobley. I think Karis LeVert moves into the starting lineup with shoot up to one of the better value plays on the slate. Max Strus, I think would be a good value at 4.5K. And then once again, we'll see who they move into the starting lineup, and I'll make updates over on Reddit. All right, Nets lineup, Simmons, Dinwiddie, McHale, Cameron Johnson, and Claxton. So I like Bridges' ceiling. I think Ben Simmons kind of being in the starting lineup this season does hurt Dinwiddie quite a bit. So I think Dinwiddie's priced about right. I do like Bridges' ceiling. I think Claxton's okay. I think my favorite play is going to be Ben Simmons at 5.9K. Expecting decent minutes for him. He's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet as well. Just super, super safe. Good defender, too. So, yeah, I think Ben Simmons is pretty good at 5.9. Obviously, it's not a good spot against Cleveland, but he would be my favorite play. And I don't really, like, I don't think I can get to anyone else. Cam Thomas will check off the bench. Maybe he'll have a bigger role this season. I don't know. Day'Ron Sharp's good point per minute. He'll probably get the backup 5, but I don't think it's necessary, right? Let's move on to the last set of games. All right, Detroit. So starting lineup: Cade, Ivy, Thompson, Stewart, Duran. They could go Ivy to the bench. They were experimenting with that. They were doing multiple lineups in preseason, so we'll wait and see there. Cade, I think, is overpriced. Ivy, if he hard for me to go there at that price point. Thompson, I think, is okay at 5.7. Once again, it's also a pretty tough spot. I do like Duran, though, at 4.8. Good point per minute guy. I'm expecting, over 20 minutes from him. I think he's a solid value. I think Alec Burks is going to get decent run. I do have interest in Burks at 4.4K. And then anyone else is just a no-go for me. Detroit's a pretty unappealing team for me. Miami. So Lowry, Hero, Butler, Bam, and then I think Martin's going to be limited. We'll see. They might start Love. We'll just wait and see on that. It's a pretty good spot. We talked about who I liked over that. Who was that? I forget who I was talking about, but Tyler Hero really stands out to me at 6.3K, and you guys know Tyler Hero causes me incredible amounts of pain. But 6.3K for Tyler Hero up against Detroit really stands out. I am a huge fan. Really like Tyler Hero. I think Bam's a good play at sub 8K as well. Butler seems priced appropriately. Kevin Love, if he starts, I think is a solid value. He's a solid point per minute guy. I would expect around 20 minutes for him. Would like him. And then no point to go to anyone else on this big of a slate personally for me. Pels lineup: CJ Ingram, Herb, Zion, Jonas. So, everyone just seems priced about right to me. I guess my favorite would be Brandon Ingram at 7.7K, but when you have Zion back in this offense, it takes a hit to basically everyone, right? So no real standouts here. I guess Ingram would be my favorite of the main guys. But outside of that, it's a very unappealing team. Alvarado's out. You'll probably see more Dyson, but once again, hard to go there. Nance will get some run, but once again, kind of hard to go there for me. Grizzlies, so Smart, Bane, Zaire, Jaren, Jackson, and Tillman. Unfortunate with Adams. We have Aldama out as well. Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr., I think, stand out to me as two of the better plays in the mid-range. With no John Morant, their usage takes a huge uptick. Their fantasy point per minute go way up. So, I really like Bane. I really like Jaren Jackson Jr. But just know if you play Jaren, he's probably going to pick up 2 quick fouls. Just super unfortunate every time I play him. Bane's rates go way up with no jaw, so I really like Bane. So super high on both the Memphis main guys here. I think Smart's really safe at 5.8K. And I think Xavier Tillman's a pretty good play at 5K too. I think he is a solid value. He might be my favorite of like that Daniel Gafford, who was it? Mark Williams grouping, Mitch Robb grouping. I think he might be my favorite of that grouping. And then Zaire, I think, is okay for value too. So this Memphis team is very appealing to me. Let's move on to the Thunder. So starting lineup: Shai, Giddey, Dort, Jalen, Chet. So Giddey, I think, seems priced about right. Shai, SGA, seems priced about right. I think Chet Holmgren is way too cheap. I really like Chet at 6.5K. Jalen Williams, I think, is a solid play at 6K. I kind of put him in that grouping of Jabari Smith. I think both these guys take off this season. So I do like Jalen Williams. Lou Dort's just there for me. It's just like fine. And then there's no one I can really get to off of the bench there for OKC. Bulls: White, Levine, DeMar, Paw and Vooch. So I think these main bulls look really, really appealing at their price points. In a good spot up against OKC as well. I think Levine's too cheap. I think Vooch is too cheap. I think DeMar's too cheap. So I really like all three of the main bulls here. I think Levine would be my favorite point per dollar, and then Vooch, and then DeRozan. But I really like all three, and I really like Kobe White for value of 4.6. He is not a bad producer. I'm expecting around 30 minutes for him. So sign me up for some Kobe. I think he looks quite good. Patrick Williams is just fine. I think I'd rather get to Kobe. And then no real interest in anyone off the bench for the Bulls. Kings, Fox, Herter, Barnes, Keegan, Sabonis. No standouts here. I think Sabonis is priced about right. I think Fox is easier to get to at that price point. But once again, seems priced about right. Herter, Murray, Barnes, they're all just like there for me. It's tough for me to get to them. If you want to go to one, just whoever's the cheapest, fine. Monk, he'll get decent run off the bench. I think he's playable in large field tournaments, but no standouts here. Sasha will get run off the bench, but yeah. Sacramento, pretty unappealing. Utah, so Clarkson, THT, Laurie, Collins, and Kessler. I think Clarkson, assuming he does start, which I think he will, guy that's going to go out there and absolutely chuck when he's on the court. I really like kind of in that Tyler Herro grouping. He stands out to me quite a bit. Markkanen is super, super safe. I think Walker Kessler is also very, very safe. I think he's a pretty good play at 5.6. Collins, no. Olynyk, no. I think THT is a pretty good value too at 4.5. Had a phenomenal preseason. So I'd like me some THT. I have a feeling he'll be popular tomorrow. Maybe. I'm not entirely sure there. So, yeah, definitely an appealing team to target. Main standouts for me are going to be Clarkson, Kessler, and THT. All right, so got to keep an eye on some news here with the Mavs. We have, I believe, Luka has no soreness and will practice Tuesday prior to evaluating his calf before Wednesday game against the Spurs. Cool. So we'll see if he plays. Obviously, if he is in, it's Luka. He's always a good play in a phenomenal spot up against the Spurs. Would really like Luka. Kyrie would then just be a secondary play for me. Lively, I think, is priced about right. Grant Williams is playable, pretty safe at 3.9K, and I think Green is just fine at his price point. I think he's solid. Now, if Luka is out, then that changes everything. Then Kyrie would look great. Grant Williams would get a boost. He would be fine. Josh Green would get a boost. Would like him quite a bit for value. Would really like Josh Green for value. And then we'll monitor what they do with the starting lineup. So keep an eye on that. That's going to be pretty important news. Spurs. So they're going to go with Sochan at the point, Vassell, Keldon, Victor, and Collins. So I think Wemby stands out. I think he's too cheap, even at 8.5K. Guy that can do absolutely everything. Great defender, good shot blocker. So really like Victor. Outside of everyone else, I think my next favorite would be Sochan at 4.7, playing the point. I think he stands out as another really good value. I think Zach Collins, assuming he does play, is way too cheap. I really like him. And then if Collins is out, then I would really like Bassey for value at 3.8K. So keep an eye on this news. Definitely could have some more plays here. Portland, so they're going to go with Scoot, Simons, Thibault, Grant, and Ayton. Simons probably has the highest ceiling on this team. So if you're going for pure ceiling, he would be the guy that I would go to. I think point per dollar. My favorite play on this team is going to be Scoot Henderson. So I like both those. I like both the guards. Outside of that, I think it's kind of. I'm not going to play Thibault. Brogdon, he'll get run off the bench, and Chuck, priced about right. Ayton, meh. Grant seems priced about right as well. So that's going to wrap it up, and we'll get to our last team here. So Clippers, Westbrook, Paul, George, Kawhi, Zubac. Terrence Mann is out. Bones Highland questionable. We'll monitor who starts for him. Could be a number of guys. We'll see. So Paul, Kawhi, I think I'm just indifferent on both. Westbrook, same kind of thing, just indifferent. He would be my favorite of the big three here for the Clippers. So if I were to play one, it would be Westbrook for me. Zubac, seems right. And then I think that's really going to be it for me with the Clippers. So sorry I didn't break down everyone on every team. I kind of just went over, who I mainly have interest in. It would just be too long of a video if I went over absolutely everyone. So I hope this video helped you guys out, and I will talk to y'all in the next one.